It's here at last. The Indian is back home, back in the garage. I've actually had it home for a few days now and I've been dying to get out here, start pulling a few bits off, start fiddling around with it and yeah, getting to understand and know it a bit more. Tonight's kind of mission, we're going to get rid of all the road bits. So number plate hangers, indicators, bits that we're not going to use. We're not going to be using this bike on the road, we're going to be using it on tracks, airfields, fields, everywhere else doing daft things with it. So I want to get rid of all the unnecessary clutter before we start modifying the bike. I cannot wait to get on this thing, whether it's tarmac, dirt, grass. I just want to put some miles in now. But first, time to dismantle. So as well as tearing off the stuff we don't need, there are certain things I'm going to keep, probably the headlight for now because it's too pretty to take off. But we've also got a few goodies to bolt on. First of all, Indian gave us the fully adjustable shock that comes off the higher spec FTRs. This being the base model has a kind of standard rebound adjustment, preload adjustment only, I think. What's it got? Yeah, you got rebound adjustment and preload adjustment. So pretty limited adjustment. Good Sachs shock still. This one is a ZF shock. It has compression damping adjustment, rebound adjustment, and the preload adjustment and the remote cartridge. Again, to ZF, another Sachs unit as well. But a bit more bling, bit more performance in the shock. And as well, our friends at EBC have sent us a massive pile of brake discs and rotors to try out. I'm pretty interested to try out the different pads. The pads they've got, they've sent us double H pads and they've sent us the... What's the other one they've sent us? Just the organic high performance pads. So we're going to try a couple of different pad compounds and see how that affects the bike. Doesn't look much difference between the two, but it can make a huge difference what compound pad you're using and what disc. So it's a good chance to stick it on the Indian and use it as a bit of a test mule. Let's get on the tools. The first job is to get the number plate hanger off. I actually quite like the number plate hanger on these Indians. It's different. It's nice, different to having the one hanging off the back. They're not the only people who do this style, but I think the way it's done with this beautiful tubular bar kind of looks like a wheelie bar, and it looks good, but it's unnecessary for us. We don't need a number plate. We can take it off, make it lighter, and look faster.
So Chris, we've had a few comments from the first video of when you asked what the public want to see this bike done with. Is that good England?
You speak good England.
Thank you. I learned it when I was a children. So one of the comments was Gymkhana. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'd be up for that. I mean, a Gymkhana course is a very tight, twisting, technical course. So I think it will be a challenge with a bike like this. But again, I'm not about insisting on having the most competitive vehicle. I want to go and enjoy it. So yeah, I think a Gymkhana is a really good shout, and it's a bit of a weird, smaller motorsport that you don't hear about too often. So it'd be great to go and hit some Gymkhana course on it. There you go, I'm committing. We're going to go and, whenever motorsport starts again, we're going to go and do Gymkhana. This is going to hit the floor with a big clang in a minute, isn't it?
Do you want a hand?
I can sit. No, I reckon I can throw it on the floor all by myself.
So another comment was a hill climb.
Now the question is, a tarmac hill climb or an off-road one?
Well, you know, I'm going to choose off-road, but...
You've seen those mad ones in the States where the bikes have got the 4-foot long swinging arm?
Yeah.
Think I'd look good on one of these?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah, tarmac hill climb would be good actually. I think this would actually be pretty good at that.
So I'm from down in there, Devon, which is close to, we don't really mention it, that...
Cornwall's quite nice though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I quite like Cornwall.
So in Heartland they do a hill climb. It's wicked. I used to go and watch as a youngster. Some of the bikes going up are awesome, and I think this thing could tear up that hill pretty cool. Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, Heartland Key hill climb. Tarmac hill climb's good fun actually. That'd be awesome. No one said in that video, I'd like to see this bike put in a new van that someone gave Chris. I didn't see that in the video anywhere. That was depressing, really.
They did say about my insulation on the van, but actually, thank you very much, it's hot enough.
Yes, it is very warm. The van was boiling that day. Come on.
So, are we trying to lose weight on it?
Always.
Always losing
Every
weight on it.
bike could be made lighter. I don't know, it's something I've got a strange obsession with. But the lighter a bike is, the easier it is to throw around, the more tricks you can do on it. If you get to the edge of your ability and it has a little wobble, the more chance you've got of not dropping it. And yeah, it's just making a bike lighter makes everything better. They handle better, they accelerate better, they stop better.
So that's fairly substantial.
That's a chunk of weight. Should we weigh it?
We should weigh it.
I've got an obsession with doing that as well. I love it. It just makes me happy knowing that you've made your bike faster for free, without spending any money at all.
You are seriously going to weigh it?
I'm actually going to weigh them, yeah. I'm excited by this. Right, 0.
Let's have a look. Is it on 0?
It is on 0.
Oh, 0.
These scales came all the way from China, so their accuracy might not be amazing. They're wonky. Hang on. Let me do this properly, Neil.
Yeah, the engineer's come out again.
He has. It's not much fun. 2.4 kilograms. That's 2.4 faster. That's what that means. And I know what someone's going to say, but I have never managed to do a poo that heavy. So that is weight I could not save. Maybe if I did a poo and cut my hair. But if I do that as well, I've saved 2.4 kilograms plus the poo and the haircut. See, it's all about gains. Faster. Oh, Neil, you remembered. Beer from the continent of America for a motorcycle from the continent of America.
So what's next? What are we taking off?
Technically, that's from Mexico. Yeah. So it's a good, at this point, anything you take off a bike, anytime you unplug a wire, anytime you disconnect a hose or a pipe, and you've finished your mod, always worth flicking the ignition on and firing up the engine. Because you might have run the battery flat by leaving the headlights on for an hour. But it's important to check that stuff, just in case unplugging what you've unplugged stops the bike from running. I'm going to now put a battery charger on it, charge the battery back up, and just cut all this bit out, and then no one needs to know.
In all that faffing around, you let the battery go flat.
Yeah, you can blame the beer, you can blame the lack of discipline as a child, I don't know. But, yeah, we foolishly let the battery go flat, so we pulled the cover off to charge it, and it reminded me that I've got a lithium battery on the shelf. So, the nice people at Bickers have been supplying us with lithium batteries for our project bikes. Lithium battery is one of the biggest weight savings you can do on a bike. So back to the scales again, our standard YTX 14 battery, a solid 5 kilos. Our Shido lithium battery, a kilo. That's 4 kilos saved.
4 kilos faster.
4 kilos faster. Quick, write it on the wall. We are now at 227 kilograms. That's exciting. Neil, have you ever heard of Microsoft Excel?
Yeah.
Exactly like this. Same thing. Rather than being on a clumsy old computer, nice solid wall. That's not going to crash, is it? New battery fitted. We can now test that removing the rear lights didn't affect anything. It's not all about saving weight.
How much is that going to weigh?
Mainly it is about saving weight, but one thing that I always like is just decluttering a bike. Like cleaning everything up, taking stuff off, and it's really nice doing that with a bike like this that's going to be raced, it's going to be a project bike. I don't need any of the road considerations, so it's nice to be able to strip everything down and just really tidy a bike up. I always think they look, that FTR 750 race bike looks beautiful because there's nothing on it that isn't designed for going around a racetrack fast. It doesn't even have a starter motor. And I'd like to get some way towards that with this one, just cleaning it up, tidying it up, taking the bits off we don't need. Lighter, cleaner, better looking, faster, more skids, more awesome. Now I'm a little worried about taking these pulley and footrests off because they actually are quite a nice shape to the frame. I'm hoping that the bit of metal behind is as pretty as the foot peg I'm taking off. Otherwise I might be forced to put them back on again. Come on, beautiful bike beneath.
Are you not going to use them for stunts?
Look at that, that's actually not too bad looking. Might just put some blanking plugs in the holes. Lighter again. More speed. Another half kilo.
I think you should add the horn to that. So Chris, we seem to be taking off chain guide. I'm being a stickler for the rules here. Don't you need it? Don't you need them for a certain speed trial?
Yes, you do. So Pendine Sands, the top speed testing with straight liners, you are required to have a fully enclosed chain guard, so you need these covers on. But that's one event, and the rest of the time, I like the look of a bike where you can see the whole chain. That to me looks way more race bike than it did with the big plastic cover on.
I agree.
So plastic cover off, keep it in a box, use it at Pendine.
Onto the scales it goes.
Onto the scales, and spend the rest of the year cleaning chain lube off the back of the bike. We are beginning to affect the practicality of the motorcycle now, but there's nothing practical about a drift bike.
Woof.
Right, we're up to 1.2 kilos
we
now.
We have got pillion peg, indicators, horn, chain guard, and nuts and bolts. A mighty 1.2 kilograms. You're happy with that?
I am delighted with that. That's not even a major component, there's just lots of fiddly bits. All trimmed off to make us faster. So, the next thing I want to remove is the side stand. I think it's a massively impractical thing to do. However, side stands are one of the lowest items on a bike. So they do have a habit of grounding out, hitting the floor. So if we can stop that happening, that helps. And again, it's a race bike. It's not going to be parked up outside the shops for any length of time. If I need to stop anywhere and I haven't got my side stand, I can just plonk it against the wall or stick it on my paddock stand. So for a bike like this, yes, it's impractical to take the side stand off, but it does have some benefits in terms of ground clearance. So we are going to do it. This side stand bracket that we don't want also has a mount for the catalytic converter on the exhaust. So by removing the side stand bracket, I no longer have any support for my exhaust, so I'm going to have to make another bracket to hold that. The flip side to that is longer term, the exhaust's going in the bin anyway, because we're going to fit a nice lightweight tubular version rather than the big catalytic converter you have to have a standard.
So it is going,
So
but not yet.
But not yet. So I think what we will have to do is modify the side stand bracket to retain the exhaust mount.
Is that under tension?
You're waiting for this to go ping, aren't you?
Yeah.
You cannot wait for this to go ping.
I'm stood in the right
And
place.
still get my knuckles, even though I've tried to circumnavigate the knuckle issue. That was nicer. Side stands, apart from being grubbier as hell, are always a good chunk of weight to remove. And considering we've left the bracket, which is quite heavy as well, that is
2.2.
oh, a little bit more weight saved. I mentioned earlier about always testing the bike as you're removing things, make sure it still works. Good examples here. So I've just unplugged the left-hand switch cue, because all it does is horn, which we've removed, indicators, which we've removed, high and low beam on the headlights, which we're not going to need, and cruise control, which we're not going to need. So I've just unplugged that, checked, and immediately we've got a warning light on the dash, and the bike does still run. What it won't do now is start in gear, because if you look here, the clutch switch, which tells the bike the clutch is pulled in, is actually wired in through the same harness. So you can run it like that, like I said, it starts and runs there. One of the problems you do get though is sometimes when the clutch switch isn't activated, the bikes do some funny things. They go into a different map on the engine. So I need to speak to the guys at Indian, find out if it's okay to bridge that. And failing that, I'm going to have to look for the wires from the clutch switch that go into here and see if we can make the connection. But it's not always as simple as it first seems. So just to tally up our extra weight, so our indicators, side stand, the pillion footrest bits we took off, horn, and of course the chain guard. That's dropped another 2.2 kilos. So I'm going to put 2.2 stuff. And we are now down to 224.8 kg at the moment, and there's still weight to be lost, so yeah. Next thing, I'm going to adjust that chain because it's doing my head in that it's hanging down like a washing line, and I'm going to disable the ABS because hopefully we've got a chance of getting some track time in this week, so it'd be nice to get it on track and see if we can spin some tyres. So sadly, still no real race time available for us on the FTR, but track days are on. It's not a track day bike, it's definitely not on track day tyres, but we thought, what the heck? We snuck out and gave it a few hard laps just to see what she could do. So after the first session, dry track, really, really good fun. Definitely you knew you were on slightly knobbly tyres. They were not comfortable when you were right leant over. You could feel that the tyres were not happy about it. And you could definitely get that rear tyre spinning in quite a few places, which was kind of exactly what we wanted. The FTR did brilliantly. Even jumping off, I'd been on a 200 horsepower superbike just before I got on it. And even jumping to this, sure, it felt a bit slow down the straights compared to that bike, but out the corners and off the turns, it was a rocket ship, and it put a massive smile on my face. For a bike that's kind of cruisery, flat track racing bike, it's definitely not a short circuit bike. The chassis worked really well. There was no problems with the suspension, it was not tying itself in knots at all, and the brakes were good enough to be hammered hard for a whole session. It might not look like a track day bike, but it sure was good fun on it. It's definitely not as good as a sports bike, but it put the same smile on my face. That thing has no right to be that good on track. That's the first time I've had a chance to put it into a corner properly and really test the chassis. And it's amazing. Dragging foot pegs a little bit and sliding on the dirt track tyres, but yeah, what a hoot. Now the second session, the British weather did what the British weather does. Drizzle, misty, cloudy, Brands Hatch, very damp, very slippery when it's damp, that track. It should have been awful. It should have been absolute, well, it was rubbish. It was slippery and awkward. I think there were 3 bikes went out on track at the beginning of the session. I was the only one still riding around at the end. Everyone else went, you know what, this isn't worth it. I was determined to sort of get the Indian into trouble and have a bit of fun with it, and exactly what I did. On those damp corners, on those greasy patches, where on a sports bike you'd be waiting for it to snap and it's all twitchy. On this, it's long, it's low, it's stable. You just light the gas, spin the tyre, just drift it out of the turns. I had 20 minutes of some of the best fun I've ever had in those conditions. It should have been rubbish, the conditions were rubbish. This bike made me smile like an idiot. And by the end of the session, people were giggling and waving and laughing over the fences just because it looked so ridiculous to see this bike power sliding around a track in the wet when everyone else had packed up and gone home. I've said it before, I'll say it again, this bike is so much fun. It might not be the fastest, it might not be the best chassis for track performance, but in terms of putting a smile on my face on that day in the wrong conditions, I can't think of a bike that's more fun like that.